The whole class watches in shock as a black kid solves the impossible math problem with lightning speed. But instead of praise, his teacher's face twists with anger. How could a boy like him be this smart? She thinks, her voice shaking as she accuses him of cheating. What happens next will leave everyone speechless. Desmond Jones sat quietly at his desk, his mind already 3 steps ahead of the lesson. Numbers floated in his head like a secret language only he could understand. Math was his world, but his world didn't belong here. Mrs. Wainwright, a tall, sharp-faced woman with cold blue eyes, had made sure of that. She walked up and down the rows. Let's see who's been paying attention. She turned to the whiteboard and wrote out a long, complicated equation, something most adults would struggle to solve. Then, without hesitation, she turned and pointed. Desmond, why don't you come up here and give this a try? The room went still. Desmond looked up, his stomach tightening. The other kids turned in their seats, whispering. Some snickered. He knew what this was. This wasn't about math. It was a setup. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Desmond had seen the way Mrs. Wainwright looked at him. The way her eyes narrowed when he got a question right. The way her lips curled when he raised his hand too fast. She wanted to see him fail. Desmond swallowed hard, then pushed his chair back. The wooden legs screeched against the floor as he stood. He could feel the weight of every eye on him as he walked to the front of the room. Go on, Mrs. Wainwright said, stepping back with a smug smirk. Show us what you got. Desmond stared at the equation. It was tough, but not impossible. He ran the numbers in his head, rearranging them like puzzle pieces. His fingers twitched, wanting to work it out on paper, but he didn't need to. The answer came to him in seconds. He picked up the marker and, without hesitation, started writing. The class fell silent. The only sound was the marker gliding across the board. Desmond moved quickly, his hand steady, his numbers clean. Step by step, he broke the problem down, moving with confidence. Mrs. Wainwright's smirk began to fade. The kids in the room stopped whispering. Some leaned forward, eyes wide. Finally, Desmond stepped back. He capped the marker and turned around. Done. The class went completely still. Mrs. Wainwright's face twisted. Her jaw tightened. She glanced at the board, her eyes scanning his work, searching for a mistake. But there wasn't one. The answer was correct. That's not possible, she muttered under her breath. Desmond stood there, his heart pounding, his hands clenched at his sides. He knew what was coming. You must have cheated, she snapped. The room gasped. Desmond's face burned. I didn't cheat, he said, his voice steady but firm. Mrs. Wainwright folded her arms. There's no way you solved that problem that fast without help. Tell me the truth, Desmond. A flicker of anger sparked inside him. I did tell you the truth. The tension in the room was suffocating. The other kids shifted uncomfortably. Some looked at Desmond with curiosity, others with quiet awe. Mrs. Wainwright, however, wasn't having it. She grabbed the marker from his hand and turned back to the board. Let's go over this again. I want you to explain every step. Desmond's fists tightened. He knew what she was doing. She was trying to make him stumble, to prove he had just guessed that he wasn't smart enough. But Desmond wasn't about to give her that satisfaction. All right, he said, his voice calm. Step 1. And then he broke it down. Not just repeating what he had written, but explaining why. He walked through each part of the problem, showing how he arrived at the answer, breaking it down in ways even the other kids could understand. By the time he was done, the room was dead silent. Mrs. Wainwright's face was red. She looked like she had swallowed something sour. The silence was broken by a single voice. That was amazing. Desmond turned. A girl in the front row, Sarah Lindell, had spoken. She was one of the smartest kids in the class, and one of the most popular. A few others started whispering in agreement. Yeah, that was crazy. How did he do that so fast? He's like a genius. Desmond swallowed hard. His heart was still racing, but a new feeling started creeping in, something warm, something strong. Mrs. Wainwright clenched her jaw. Then, just as quickly as the moment had come, she turned away. All right, that's enough, she snapped. Everyone, back to your work. Desmond walked back to his seat, but he felt different. Stronger. He had proven himself, and no amount of denial could change that. But deep down, he knew this wasn't over. Mrs. Wainwright wasn't the kind of person to let something like this go. And he was right, because the very next day, she tried to make sure he'd never outshine her again. The next morning, Desmond walked into class with his head high. He knew Mrs. Wainwright wasn't happy about what happened yesterday. He could feel it in the way she glared at him when he took his seat. The tension in the room was thick, but Desmond didn't care. He had proven himself. But Mrs. Wainwright wasn't finished with him yet. She walked to the front of the class, her heels clicking against the floor. Then, with a fake smile, she cleared her throat. "Class, today we're having a special quiz," she announced, her eyes locked on Desmond. A surprise test to see who's really paying attention. The class groaned. Desmond's stomach twisted. He knew exactly what she was doing. Mrs. Wainwright walked down the rows, dropping thick test papers on each desk. When she reached Desmond's, she hesitated, then placed his paper face down with a smirk. "Good luck," she said. Desmond flipped it over. His eyes widened. This wasn't just a test. This was designed to make him fail. The problems weren't from their lessons. Some were from high school math. A few were so advanced that even college students would struggle. Desmond looked up, and sure enough, Mrs. Wainwright was watching him, waiting for him to choke. The whispers started. "He's gonna fail this one. Yeah, no way he gets out of this. Guess he's not that smart after all." Desmond felt his heart pounding. His hands clenched into fists. He could feel the anger rising, but then he took a deep breath. Focus. Numbers were his language. They made sense when nothing else did. And this time, he wasn't just solving problems. He was fighting back. He picked up his pencil and started writing. At first, the class was quiet. Then slowly, heads started turning. Desmond's hand flew across the paper. He wasn't just answering. He was destroying the test. The numbers came to him effortlessly, like a song only he could hear. Mrs. Wainwright's smirk started to fade. Desmond kept going. He finished the hardest problem without hesitation. Then the next. And the next. 5 minutes before time was up, he put his pencil down and leaned back. Finished. The room was dead silent. Even the kids who had laughed at him before were staring. If you're enjoying this story and want to hear more, hit that subscribe button now. Don't miss out. Mrs. Wainwright stormed over and snatched his paper. She skimmed through it, her face turning redder with every answer she checked. Then, without a word, she stomped back to her desk and slammed it down. Desmond folded his arms, watching. She knew the truth now. She couldn't deny it. But she wasn't about to let him win that easily. "You must have cheated," she snapped. "There's no way you knew all these answers." Desmond sat up. "I didn't cheat." "You expect me to believe that?" she hissed. "You're just a kid. You're not supposed to be this smart." The words hit like a slap. The class gasped. Some kids looked at Desmond. Others looked at Mrs. Wainwright. They knew she had just messed up. Desmond clenched his jaw. He had held back long enough. "You just don't want me to be smart, do you?" he said. His voice was calm, but his words hit like a hammer. Mrs. Wainwright's eyes widened. "Excuse me." "You heard me," Desmond said. He stood up. "You don't like that I'm smart. You don't like that I'm better at math than you." A few students gasped. Mrs. Wainwright's face twisted with rage. "Sit down right now." "No," Desmond said. The class was frozen. No one had ever talked back to Mrs. Wainwright before. "You tried to embarrass me in front of everyone," Desmond continued. "But it didn't work. And now you're mad because you were wrong about me." Mrs. Wainwright's hands shook. "That's enough. You should be happy to have a student like me," Desmond said, his voice stronger now. "But you'd rather believe I'm a cheater than accept that I'm smarter than you thought." Silence. Mrs. Wainwright opened her mouth, but no words came out. Then, the door opened. Everyone turned. Mr. Caldwell, the school principal, stood there, arms crossed. He had heard everything. "Mrs. Wainwright," he said, stepping inside. "A word." Now. Her face drained of color. She shot a glare at Desmond before turning and walking stiffly toward the door. The class was still frozen. Then someone started clapping. It was Sarah Lindell. Then another kid joined. And another. Until the entire class was applauding. Desmond sat back down, feeling something he had never felt before in this school. Power. Did you love this story? If you want more powerful stories like this, subscribe now. Let's expose the truth and celebrate intelligence together.